This is George McCaslin, coming to you from my home at the Indian Meadows Nursing Home. I am the online moderator for the Dad's House Educational Group, found at www.dads-house.org. Today we will be reviewing the chapter on child support in the Dad's House Membership Manual. Before reviewing the articles in this chapter, I would like to first point out that the Federal Child Support Commission puts out a free handbook on child support. This handbook should be obtained and reviewed by both those paying and those receiving child support. Included in the handbook is a section on the rights of the paying or obligor parent. To listen to a recording of that specific section, click on this link. Another item of importance applies to those who have payroll attachment for child support. This article needs to be reviewed as many states are disallowing 8% of those payments, resulting in arrears and attachments of tax returns for the balance. Next, we have the basics of child support. This article covers the basic elements of child support that all obligors need to know. Next, we come to child support jurisdiction, addressing the issues surrounding cases where the obligor parent lives in a different state from that of the children. That is followed by new child support claims, which happens as a result of a separation or when a man learns he has a child with a woman from his past. As regards that, the issue of retroactive child support can arise. All states have laws for the awarding of retroactive child support for the period of time between a breakup of the parents and the actual filing for child support. However, less known is that most states have some type of laws that allow for the award of retroactive child support in paternity cases of up to 18 years worth, even in cases where the man had no knowledge of the existence of the child. For a minimum wage earner living in Ohio, that would come to $52,000 plus another $40,000 of interest penalties. Of those states that allow it, most have a 5-year limit on these awards, which can still come to a substantial amount. In these economic times, with so many out of work, this becomes an especially relevant problem for those under child support obligations. As the states do not make it a point to pass out the child support handbook to child support obligors, they are not familiar that child support enforcement is obligated to help those paying child support obtain a modification. The article on child support modifications reviews what is involved and should be considered as it relates to both new child support claims and modifications. It should be noted that child support guidelines are not mandatory under federal law. Referred to as a rebuttable presumption argument, this is the process of departing from the child support guidelines, which can result in a final payment amount being higher or lower than what would be considered standard. This article addresses this area and its application. An issue that is often raised by those ordered to pay child support is who gets the IRS child tax credit. This is a question that needs to be addressed from the perspective of the best financial benefit of both parents. Another area often asked about is when does the child support end? The common belief is that it ends at age 18 or when the child graduates from high school, but the laws on this varies from state to state. Due to so many child support payers not being familiar with their rights on child support, many fall into the arrears, resulting in being called before the court to provide an explanation and to face a contempt of court citation. This article addresses that and how to respond. An issue of consideration for those paying child support is what happens should they remarry to someone who earns an income. The general presumption is that it has no effect. However, in 5 states, it can be applicable. This is covered in the child support and second spouse's income. How does having another child affect child support? This can be a very controversial area of concern and needs to be considered before an obligor parent considers having more children. A recent article from Wales in the UK found that 50% of paternity tests come back negative, meaning the mother was not initially sure who the father of her child or children was. Reports in the US places this figure at 30%. This can be a major concern to those men who are obligated to pay child support thinking the child is theirs, when the reality is otherwise. This is especially important in cases where the man has been denied access to the child he is supporting. Child support fraud, You're Not the Dad, addresses this issue and what can be done about it. A regular complaint by not only those paying child support but also by the children involved is the child support is not being spent on the kids. This article addresses the perceptions and presumptions in this regard and proposes a potential alternative of consideration. Does child support change if the custodial parent gets a raise? This is also a highly misunderstood area in how it affects the payments of the obligor parent. That is a review of the child support chapter of the Dad's House Educational Manual. Take the time to study all this material, as only through knowledge do we gain power over our lives. If you have not already done so, join Dad's House to discuss these issues with other fathers and learn from each other's experiences.